Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and as the title of the video suggests, today I will be discussing Black Flag. Now this is a part of the series my ongoing series that was earlier known as my ideal Assassin's Creed series. So now essentially what I'm trying to discuss here is what the story and lore would be like in my ideal Assassin's Creed game. Now it just happens to be close to Black Flag, and that is why that's the title. Now it is still in that same series. Now lately my channel hasn't been doing all that well in the last 2-3 days. I don't really know how to grow the channel and all that shit. So yeah, and I felt like, I might do one of these kind of videos, one of these analysis kind of videos. So all that being said, let's get into the meat of this video. Now, today of course, as the title suggests, I will be discussing the brilliance of Black Flag. Now, Black Flag is not really regarded as an Assassin's Creed game, but I feel like it's a huge disservice to the game to not recognize the kind of story that this game told. Now, for the first time, we were not part of any of the orders. We were not a Templar, we were not an assassin, we were simply a pirate. We were free from all the tenets of all the principles of both the assassins and the Templars. We were free to have our own creed, which we kind of did. It was not a particularly good one, but we did have our own. And it also gave us a perspective that we never really had. It gave us like a neutral sight into both of these orders. Now, I'm not saying in any way that Black Flag was perfect. It had its flaws. For example, Edward just magically knowing how to assassinate people, how to climb. Okay, climb I can still understand, but the assassination mechanics I don't quite agree with. There were many such issues with the game, which it had many Assassin's Creed mechanics in places where it didn't make much sense. But even with all that, I'm focusing more on the story that it was trying to say. Now, there's one another game in this franchise which does this perspective as well. And that game is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, those who have viewed even a few videos on this channel, I'm sure you have heard at some point just how much I hate Odyssey. But I am not against the concept of Odyssey. The reason why Odyssey failed, at least in my opinion, at least for me, is because of its horrible writing. And Black Flag didn't suffer from that because the writers of Black Flag are actually pretty good. Not just pretty good, they are brilliant. Now, in all of the Assassin's Creed games that we played, you take literally anyone except for Black Flag and Odyssey, we were playing as assassins, we are fighting Templars, and we had one game, Assassin's Creed Rogue, where the roles were reversed. So we were Templars fighting assassins. Now, Black Flag and Odyssey, as I said before, were the only games where we got an outside perspective into both these orders. Although in Odyssey, they were more about where the assassins and Templars actually come from, which again, the writing in this game was so horribly fucked up that none of it made any sense. But let's ignore Odyssey. That's not what I want to discuss here. So, back to Black Flag. In this game, we got a perspective of someone who didn't really know much about these orders and only came to know them with a chance encounter. But this meant for the first time we got to see these orders from a neutral perspective. So we got to see exactly what they are and exactly what they intend. And yes, Edward did choose to become an assassin by the end of the game, and he did go on to become a master assassin, as we learn in the other games. But he had his own convictions. There's a reason why he joined the assassins and not the Templars. And something that even Governor Torres de Ayala, even he respected that in the end. Even he respected, he says that you wear your convictions well, they suit you. Yes, you can see Edward's perspective on him, and even if you are a Templar, even if you might not necessarily agree with them, he has a perspective that is to be respected. And that is something this game had, respect. It had respect for Assassin's Creed. It didn't go the Odyssey route of, completely doing your own shit and not giving a fuck about what the lore actually is. It had respect for the series. And even though it added some elements to the series that were completely outlandish, as far as the series is concerned, it had respect for the series. It didn't just have respect for its series, it had respect for its characters, it had respect for its story. That is what I liked. As for the antagonists, I feel like Woodes Rogers was a genuine Templar. Among all the Templars that we had, And by the way, Woodes Rogers wasn't the Grandmaster in this case, but I feel like he was more of a Templar than even Torres was. And because unlike Torres, he wasn't a coward who gave the blood of his decoy to save himself. If you might notice, when we go into the observatory, we actually see Woodes from Woodes Rogers' perspective. That means the blood that he gave for the cause was real, it was his own. Unlike Torres, who gave the blood of his decoy, and that is why we kind of find out that he killed the wrong person, and then we have to fight El Tiburon. So, unlike Torres, who was a coward, he was not. And that is something I admire about this character. And he was also someone, although he didn't agree with Edward like at all, he in his dying moments, he stayed true to what he was, he stayed true to what he believed, and he also respected Edward's perspective. He didn't agree with him, but yeah, even he says like just now that I'm dying, I finally find a friend in you. And then he says that Roberts is in Principe. He does call him a mad dog, but we can see that that respect between these two orders. Now, obviously, this respect is necessary. I feel it is necessary. Now, these both orders, they are fighting for the same cause, and they have wildly different visions on how to go about it. And I feel like that is something the series should focus on. Not these mustache-twirling bad guys, but two sides of a coin, where both the orders are wrong and right at the same time. The assassins are not always correct. The Templars are obviously not always correct, as we have seen in multiple games. But both these orders are necessary. And I think this is a plot point that should be focused more on as in Assassin's Creed games. We should see more of what these orders actually want. Kind of how we did in Assassin's Creed 3 with Haytham. Now, that brings me to Valhalla. Now, obviously, as I said, the series was actually about my ideal Assassin's Creed game, and I can't get anywhere if I don't discuss the upcoming one. Now, it is pretty clear that Eivor, and as I've discussed before, it might be male, it might be female. There's a whole video on that. I think there are 2 videos on that in my channel. Now, they will meet the assassins pretty early on, but the assassins were obviously hidden ones during this particular timeline. What remains to be seen is how much of an assassin Eivor actually is. Now, given the people involved in writing the game, that is Tabby McDevitt, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a new perspective on how these orders actually function. Now, I feel like Origins did a brilliant job in setting up the Order of the Ancients, and I feel now Valhalla has a wonderful opportunity to actually expand on that. Because, yeah, now it's the Hidden Ones versus the Order of the Ancients, because neither the Assassins nor the Templars actually exist in this timeline, don't exist during the time Valhalla is set, but they were both expanding orders. They are both going to new grounds, they don't know where they are going, but they are basically expanding with the Roman Empire. They expanded with the Roman Empire. So yeah, both of these orders have expanded now. And I feel like this would be a perfect ground to show these two orders right on each other's throats, right at a similar power level, because we always see either the Assassins having the upper hand or the Templars having the upper hand. This would be a nice way to see them on even footing. Now obviously, in our perspective, Eivor is invading England from Norway, so you might say he's on the back foot. I mean, he's the one who is going through the progression of the game, so you can say he's on the back foot, the Assassin's on the back foot. But I don't think even the Templars have that much of an influence yet, because obviously they started with, the Order of the Ancient started with Julius Caesar essentially. I mean, it was still before Julius Caesar, but Julius Caesar is the father of understanding. So yeah, they worship him in a way. Not worship him, they respect him in a way. And I feel like since even they were going through this whole expansion phase, they might actually be on an even footing with the Assassins for once. So I want to see these orders go head to head. I want to see these orders try and get the world shaped in their own vision and succeed or fail depending on how well they do or how well their convictions are. Now, this is one of the reasons why I love Black Flag, because Black Flag did this effortlessly. Black Flag did this entire conflict justice without ever drawing attention to it. In fact, no one actually realizes this. That is the reason why everyone thinks Black Flag is not really even an Assassin's Creed game. But I will always maintain my position that even though the gameplay of Black Flag was a huge departure for the series, what it had to say about Assassin's Creed and its addition to the lore justifies its position as an Assassin's Creed game, just as many Assassin's Creed games have come before or after it. It is just as much of an Assassin's Creed game as Assassin's Creed 2 was. It is just as much of an Assassin's Creed game as Assassin's Creed Origins was. Now, the reason why I feel like Odyssey missed the mark and why Odyssey, even in my list, is not a justifiable Assassin's Creed game is, as I said before, the writing is horrible. But even without that, it just feels like Odyssey is not quite respecting what this franchise is about. Odyssey wanted to make itself a fantasy series, which I don't mind. I don't mind going the fantasy route. But if you're going the fantasy route, if you want to tell a story like that, then it doesn't necessarily have to be an Assassin's Creed game. In fact, what I feel about Odyssey is, and actually this is a topic that I will cover in a later video, because there is a guy, the guy who got fired recently, I can't pronounce his name, obviously, and he was in charge of all the creative stuff, and I'm putting creative in double quotes here. But it just feels like Odyssey was being throttled by it being an Assassin's Creed game. It just felt like the developers, what they were trying to do, they would have done it a lot better if they didn't have some idiot breathing down their necks. And if they didn't have some idiot breathing down their necks telling them to make a game that they don't really want to make. And that is why I feel like Gods and Monsters might just be a much better game, because I feel like that's what Ubisoft Quebec was going for. So yeah, the only reason why I don't include Odyssey is because it really does not justify itself as an Assassin's Creed game. Now, there is a video by Lasers, I believe, which says, Odyssey broke me. Now, it's a bit over the top, in my opinion. Some points that he makes, I don't really agree with, because I feel like Odyssey did justify some things, but most of what he says in that video, I agree with 100%. I might even do an extended review discussion thing about Odyssey, but that would come later. So yeah, what I want from an ideal Assassin's Creed game would be a story like Black Flag. Not exactly like Black Flag, but an outsider perspective. A perspective where both these orders are in the same position. Now in Black Flag, obviously, the assassins were pretty fucked because Edward fucked them over. Now I want these orders to be in level. I want these orders to go head to head against each other. And I want the game to focus on that. Maybe Valhalla will be that game, maybe it won't. Maybe we'll never get a game like this, because Ubisoft always goes for the safer options. And the safer option is to show the hooded guy win, because we have come to expect this at this point. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Now, if you like the video, obviously, press the like button, subscribe for more content. I'll have more of these discussion videos. Obviously, the Assassin's Creed 2 series is going on as well. Horizon Zero Dawn is coming. And do let me know down in the comments below. Do you agree with what I'm saying? What would your ideal story be? And how would you say, if you had to write an Assassin's Creed game, how would you approach it? Would you focus on some other elements? Would you completely do something else? Do let me know down in the comments below. And after all that said, peace.